States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It's gonna be a long night for you two.
Oh, really? Well, that's right, no, Aaron.
Yeah.
He's still sick.
Yeah, Aaron's not gonna be here tonight. He is watching on Bearcat TV, and if we need him for a vote, we can just call him and he'd be available. And Tom is gone for chasing his kids playing basketball, so. Public communications.
Hello, my name's Kelvin Meyer. Got Nick, Marco. We helped coach the high school trap team. Last year we got another one-year trial. The previous year we had a one-year trial that we never shot. Last year we had 13 kids come out for the season. We shot 3,300 shells, more than 3,300 shells. Had 2 kids go to state. Took 4th in the conference. We missed 3rd by 5 targets for an average. I guess we're just here looking for another year, or trying to get a couple years or something. I think we've proven that we can be successful, and there's some interest in the community and the schools for this.
Sure.
We're just looking for another approval. I don't know how long we can go out, or if we got to do this every year. Or what.
Numbers wise, what is it, like the second year and then last year, were they blown up or were they steady or?
So the first year we didn't shoot because of COVID. So it was just, kids I think we only had 3 that actually signed up and could get a magazine and a shirt. That's all that they did. And that was totally paid for by some fundraising that we did.
Your sponsor money's covering everything?
So last year we covered the fundraising money paid for everything except the club fees. That was kind of just a decision we made that kids or families need to have a little skin in the game.
So the kids pay their own club fees?
Which is $25.
Sure. And is that the fundraiser that just got done?
That was one of them. We get a lot of outside source money, Delta Waterfowl, Great Plains Outdoorsmen, Pheasants Forever, a couple individuals that donated money. It's a whole gamut. I guess we never know what
Sure.
it is. That's fundraising, I guess.
Well, I've heard nothing but positive about it. And I think it's good that, the kids have another opportunity to do something different. How do you guys feel about it?
I agree.
Heard any complaints or anything?
Yeah, my boy was in it last year and enjoyed it. And wish he could have made all of them, but he had busy because he was doing baseball too, so. Yeah, he enjoyed it.
We shoot Tuesday nights, and right now, we have a plan 5 to 7. That's what we did last year. We think if we have more than 15 kids, we either have to open up another house to shoot at, and or adjust the time one way or the other. Few kids too, but a lot of the kids that shot last year that are still around still text, and we got either siblings that want to come out and shoot, or a friend. Parents have contacted us, so I think it's going to go up. I think it's and we Nick just went to Minnesota to acquire 30 cases of shells, so it'll be good for at least 20 kids.
Sure.
For sure.
And that's virtual? You know,
Yeah, we don't go anywhere. We shoot everything out here except state shoots in Aberdeen. Nationals would be in
Yeah, but
Michigan.
when I say virtual, is it camera? Or
No,
It's just recorded.
it's just basically on your honor system.
So you submit the scores.
Yep, so the coaches will submit the scores, and then when your kids go to the state shoot, they'll flush out if you're being honest or not.
Sure. Yeah.
And I can speak for all of the coaches, we're
Yeah.
out there to set an example as well, so
So, Lori, can we go longer than a 1-year commitment, or just? I mean, cause this is really, all we're doing is giving our blessing,
Correct, they're using our name,
our name, but they're financially taking care of themselves and.
yes.
We have a 501(c) nonprofit set up,
Oh, you do?
so, yes.
That's good.
Did you guys come up with criteria for lettering? I know that was asked last year.
We just discussed this after our drawing we just had the other day for the board. I do have a rough copy of it. Spoke to all the coaches, I think we came up, I have a rough copy.
Yeah, I don't need to see it. I mean, that criteria is basically up to you guys and assuming you be consistent with other programs. But
There-
we have kids that letter in rodeo. We don't sponsor them on the shop.
Yeah, I guess the one note I had on here is I wasn't sure what the school standard is for GPA to participate in sports.
We do have an eligibility policy, and so that's on a weekly basis after the third week of each quarter.
Okay.
I guess that's up to you guys if you want to enforce that since it's outside of school, but it
I would
probably
like-
makes sense if we were more consistent with that.
I think that's what we discussed, would like to be the same as majority of the rest.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
You know where it is off the top of your head?
Yeah.
They just have to have passing grades in the courses that they're enrolled in, starting with the third week of each quarter. And we do it on a weekly basis every Monday. So if they're failing something on a Monday morning, then they're ineligible for the rest of that week until the following Monday.
Okay.
So if you have no shooting sports during that week, that kid's kind of getting a break from ineligible and you're not really eligible.
So yeah, once you start out, you can send me an email, and then I can email that to you.
Okay,
I can check with our secretary Karen, maybe she could put out a note to get it to you,
yeah.
once you start
And
out.
I don't need to see every kid's GPA or just if there's somebody.
Or you give me the list, and I can check.
Okay.
Yeah, eligibility, they still get to practice, so it's only scheduled competitive events that they have to set up. So if you have practices during the week and somebody's not passing all their classes, they still can practice.
Okay. Yeah, so how it's set up is, those first 2 weeks are considered practice weeks, and then the third week is a reserve week. Shoot your targets just in case you miss or bad weather. And then you shoot 5 weeks of competition, and then there's a fun shoot, so it's, what is that, 9 weeks?
Okay,
You guys see a problem with it?
No,
No, yeah, I think it's a good thing. Very good.
not you, no.
Never shot a gun.
Dr.
My nose
Boston,
was growing.
would you be okay with doing a 3-year? I mean, we always have the right to
Yeah.
stop it if we need to, but that way you guys have some direction and know where you're going and.
Yes, I would appreciate that.
I don't see any reason not to.
So move. 3 year.
Motion by Larry, second by Marty, all in favor? Aye.
Thank
Motion
you.
passes. Thank you guys, thanks for all that you do and
Yep,
it's
thank you.
very much appreciated.
We won't let you down, I promise.
I'm having to quit buying $100 squares and just make a donation to the 501.
I was gonna bring in raffle tickets too, I have them in the truck. We got another one going.
Oh, yeah. Stop by.
All right.
All right.
Guys, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Any conflicts disclosures? None? A motion to approve the minutes of the December 15th special meeting and the December 13th and 20th special meetings.
So move. Second.
Thanks Marty, thanks Larry. Discussion. Did you guys see anything? The only thing I saw was on the 20th meeting, Caleb actually wasn't here for the meeting. I don't know if we need to adjust that or not, but other than that, they all look good to me. All in favor, say aye.
Alright.
Motion to approve the financial statements.
So move.
Second.
Thanks Larry, Marty. Discussion.
I have had a question, what was it on the, on the bond redemption, that was a minus?
Yes, and that happens every year because because of our, when we collect our taxes.
Okay.
But that was our last payment.
Larry,
You
that was
made the
good.
last one and it was minus then.
I wish I could look into the future and see that. That's a good catch. It is, negative 18,000. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Uh, back. Motion to approve the claims.
Second.
Thanks, Marty. Larry? Discussion? I didn't have anything. One thing I did notice, but I didn't see any boiler repairs. Probably shouldn't say that, but. I guess that was my only thing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to action items. Action item A, set election date of
April 12th, 2022.
April 12th. Need a motion?
So move.
Second?
Thank you. Discussion?
The terms of Marty and Larry are up this year. They are three-year terms.
Okay.
And you can begin picking up a petition on January 28th.
It's in the mail.
Let me know, Larry, I'll get them circulated for him. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the 2022-2023 calendar.
So move.
Second?
Thank you. Dr. Block.
I did not make hard copies, as I think some of them may change even as recent as tonight. If you looked in the notes that I had provided on the sheet that I usually do each month, there were some considerations that was provided to me, and I have a couple extras that I would mention. Before we get to those, just an FYI, homecoming, we will not know until the football schedule is done. The High School Activity Association is ones that they draft our schedules and hire all the officials, do all that with football. It's the only sport that they do that with. So we have to wait until that's complete. Last year it wasn't complete until March. And so homecoming is going to be one of those things where we'll just have to put it in there whenever Mr. Lyons and I determine the best date. How do we determine the best date? We look at our home event, or our home football games, and then look at the week that we have that has the majority of the home events and allows us to also have coordination in the same week. So that's, I mean, it's not a rocket science, but it's just we try to find the best week. Try not to get too late in the fall, but sometimes it gets that way. Other than that, I think everything on the draft that you saw was corrected. I usually have Mr. Case and Lori and the other administrative assistants kind of review it for the numbers to make sure that I'm matching correctly with my numbers and have accurate information and numbers there. The comments that were provided, some of these came from our staff. September 29th is a consideration, parent-teacher conferences. Is it possible to move that to a later date? I will tell you that that's potentially going to stress Mr. Mines, simply because once we sort of get those dates locked in and he's scheduling volleyball, basketball, and those types of things, because we have basketball in February, obviously, he tries to reserve those dates, and then if we start moving those around, it could cause some issues. So we could consider it at a later date, but just know that it might conflict with some sports that we may have to adjust some things, and it's kind of the domino effect, I guess is what I would say. January 2nd, I had two different suggestions there. One is maybe that could be a school day, and then have fewer days in May, since it's January 2nd, we're ready to come back. Who cares if it's a Monday, that type of thing. The other thing was, I know that there's some area schools that do an in-service upon return after the Christmas break, and so perhaps that day could be an in-service. And if you're asking me for recommendations, again, it really doesn't matter to me. I don't have a majority of the staff that said this. These were suggestions, so they're just ideas. One was suggested that perhaps we not take the state wrestling day off. I know that we discussed that last year, but chose to continue to do that as a vacation last year. At the beginning of the calendar, I know last month when we discussed the calendar, the directions that I was given was that we start the calendar at least 3 days later than the draft that I had provided last month. This is actually, I think, 4 days later, because I think I had us starting on the 18th, and we're actually, when you say 4 days, it's actually 4 school days later, or weekdays later. But there was a suggestion that we maybe do in-service on the 22nd and the 23rd, and start school either right away on Wednesday, or start school on the 25th as a potential start date. What I will tell you that, and this is a secondary thing, already with the draft that I have provided to you tonight, e-learning classes with Northern start the week of the 16th, 17th, and 18th. So any students that are taking e-learning classes will be starting then. And dual credit classes all start either that week or the following week. And the dual credits are the college classes. And so we will run into some issues if we start later we're going to have to make sure somehow the kids get registered and do all of that stuff ahead of time, because we typically take the first day, make sure everybody's in their classes, where they're supposed to be, get their textbooks ordered, all of those sort of things. Are you in a dual credit, Chase, or are you in a?
Just the high school
credit?
online.
Okay.
Hmm.
And did we start before, did your classes start before school this last year?
No.
So, that's just one thing we have to consider. Now, changing that, basically, or, you know, if we have, I don't have numbers as to the number of students that are taking e-learning, I would say we're in that range of 40 to 50 kids probably taking courses between e-learning and dual credit. But that's still a very small amount of our students, K-12 when you consider it.
So you're saying they're starting like on the 15th?
Probably not the
Or midweek?
15th, the week of.
Okay,
Um,
and that's back where, similar to what it was last year.
Yeah, did you guys, I'm just looking at you, Chase, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but did you guys start e-learning classes the first week of school that we started this year, do you remember?
Yes, I'm pretty sure we did.
So I think e-learning starts the same week that we did. I don't know if dual credit, do the colleges, I think they're either the same week or a week later. When did you take, Jake, was that the first Friday of school?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think the colleges are the week later.
Was the first semester 9 days shorter then?
Yes, the way it is right now, and if we shift it anymore, it gets shorter. If we finish by Christmas. Now, I will tell you this, that if you start going back to what we used to do, where we finished, we would go 1 full week into the spring to finish the first semester. We haven't done that since we've really been doing the dual credit.
To me, it'd almost be like we go after Labor Day, and then it's like now, we might as well start school the 10th of August and get out the 1st of May. So, well,
Going the other direction.
everybody's dictating to us, you know, to get that,
Yeah.
get done by Christmas, and e-learning, and cut no dual credits, and they keep starting early, high school activities, football.
Well, yeah, the High School Activity Association, I don't know what to say about that, I have my own
Are they
opinions.
going earlier?
It just seems like it's crept up and crept up. It's actually, I think football's starting the first week of August this next year. I don't know. It used to be the last week of August, but it's, for whatever reason, it's changed. I will say, though, that if you compare our dual credit, you go back 10, 15 years, we definitely have a much larger portion of our students taking dual credits. And so that part, if, and maybe it's not a terrible thing, if they're in college classes, they would finish their college classes before Christmas, and if our semester actually carried over, the only problem is you run into, we'd probably have some kids taking finals and things like that, and then the very next week they start college classes in the spring.
But if we leave it as is, we get done with the first semester before Christmas, right?
Yes, with 81 days in the fall semester and 90 days, so there's 9 days difference between semesters.
Yeah.
Now, that's not a big deal in the elementary. With the core courses in the middle school, that's an imbalance. The ones in the fall taking 7th grade English have 9 fewer days than the ones in spring, so it's sort of. How do I justify saying that that's okay? I would say we tend to have more snow days, and we push things more farther into May. We have track, golf, FFA, FCCLA, there's lots of activities that disrupt the flow of classes in the spring, I think, more than you have in the fall. And so I think you make up that difference anyway.
I like this calendar, I like the fact that we're pushing it back a few days. I mean, I do get a lot of comments as a board member, school starts too early. And so I feel like this, we're trying something here, you know, and I don't know enough about the college classes and the online classes to have a really strong opinion there. Marty, you may have a better idea on that than I do. But it seems like maybe it's worth a try.
I don't know, you can look at it from two different ways. You can, you know, for those students, you know, we're looking at some kids having to come in and start school a week before it actually starts. Those students are gonna start those classes. But like Dr. Black was saying, those are some high school kids, and that's not elementary. Do you have, the way the calendar went this last year, do you feel that there was any issues with it starting earlier? Was there any problems that developed from that?
When you say starting earlier,
Like it was last year, you know, the week before?
I would say no, because that's what we've been doing for a few years, so it's kind of our tradition, or in recent years anyway, that's kind of been what we've been used to. It's been in that 15, 16, 17, the middle of August is kind of where we've been for a few years now. So I would say that no, we didn't see any difficulties because we're kind of been used to that. When we probably went to that, there might have been difficulties,
Right.
because it was different, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know, when I was teaching, it was, early on, we had school like 2 or 3 days before Labor Day, and then the following week was 4 days, and it was the third week before you actually got a full weekend, and it was actually kind of nice, because you just kind of transitioned into it, for the students especially. But now it's up so much, and I've heard several times that a lot of it is being predicated by sports. Sports are pushing it up. But then with all the online learning and everything's getting done before Christmas, you want to make sure that you try to get as close to equal days. But then I'm going to go back to what my dad once said, and you know, he said, if you want to get something done as a teacher, especially as a high school teacher, and you have to get it done, make sure you get it done before track starts.
Sure.
Because once that spring, like Dr. Block says, once spring rolls around in high school, things get really busy, and kids miss. So taking that into account, maybe 81-90 is not a bad number.
Track season and golf season, it is not as bad as I make it out to be, I'm gonna be honest. But it's stressful every year, because it just seems like I have to focus so much on getting substitutes. I gotta sub for this, I gotta sub for that. And when you're doing that, you're getting multiple subs, because for track, you got 2-3 coaches.
Right.
And,
My
so
wife just texted me, she said, none of SDSU can start the 22nd.
22nd. Well, so that's a Monday. Okay. So both our e-learning and our dual credit students would have to have things in place and be ready to go before we had our first day of school.
Can they take those classes remotely?
Yes. The only one is the e-learning. How often are you and your e-learning? Once a week, twice a week?
I don't have to meet
You
with
don't
my
have to meet?
teacher. No.
Some of them they have to meet, some do not. And I would say it's good for the majority of the kids that are taking the online classes, but there's gonna be some that they won't do anything, and when they show up on the 24th, they will have missed a week and a half of e-learning, and they're not registered fully, and they're not whatever, and so it's just those types of things, but even when you start early, you have those issues. I know that it will be kind of a stressor for those that are taking e-learning and dual credits. But again, it's, you know, when you guys look at the whole picture, you're looking at a percentage of our
Credits. Well, what do you guys think? I support the calendar presented to us here.
Motion approved.
I have a motion to approve.
As is here. Are there any other considerations you want to?
I think, as is here, is there anything else that we need to draw attention to?
Well, do you, it's been presented to us and we've talked about it and everything, but I would like to know what are your guys' thoughts? I mean, if you had a preference and from all factors considered, the public to the kids to the staff to everybody involved with this, which do you see as what's best? I mean, we're on the outside looking in, so.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the right person to ask, but, I just, whatever is presented, it's like, yeah, let's just take it and roll with it. In terms of the little kiddos, I like starting midweek, and, you had brought that up too. It's kinda nice just to ease into it. Whenever we have a chance to do that, start 3 days and kinda ease into it, that's the best way to go about it. Other than that, throughout the year, it's like, yeah, we're in education, or whatever days we have to come to school, we have to be there at school, and we have to learn.
For me, it's not a matter of elementary versus secondary, because I can tell you as many secondary people would like to start later than you might see in the elementary. I think the elementary tends to want to start a little bit later than the secondary, but the secondary that want to start earlier, they're typically the coaches. They're here anyway, they'll be here. I know it doesn't give you the direction you want, but it really does not matter to me. And I could talk to one teacher and then 5 minutes later talk to another teacher, and before you know it, too many people involved in it. It's just,
I've been in some fiery conversations in the past over calendar, and I'm not hearing that from you. I didn't hear any staff really getting fired up one way or the other about this.
well, if they did, they didn't email me
Sure.
or personally talk to me.
And so that's why
Yeah.
I support it.
Yeah, I'm all in favor of starting after Labor Day, but then you have to weigh in all the other circumstances and classes, and yeah, it does make sense to try and get done before Christmas. And
Yeah, if we were starting after Labor Day, I mean, we'd have to can block scheduling and go with a full
We'd have-
7-period day where you don't get credits until the end of the year.
We'd have 2 football games in before school started.
So,
right. Yeah, it's the first game, the 19th, then?
and you'd be the only school starting after Labor Day, by the way.
Right.
There's,
Let's see, we already had a motion and a second,
I'll second.
correct?
Yes, we
So,
did.
all in favor of approving the calendar as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Action item C, accept the resignation of Ruth Kitsaya.
So move.
Thanks, Larry.
Second.
Marty? I've got a letter here. Mr. Case and all to whom it concerns, the intent of this letter is to inform the Webster Area School that the end of the 2021-2022 school year, I will be resigning my position of middle school special education paraprofessional. I would like to thank Mr. Case for the opportunity to assist students in their education. I feel I need to retire and enjoy my grandchildren's activities and spend more time with my family. Thank you for what the school has done for me. Ruth Kitsaya. Well, Ruth's done a good job over the years, and we'll miss her.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's done an excellent job. Very great to have her in school.
Yeah.
Flexible, good personality, gets along with many. And yeah, it's kind of funny because I called her. We were struggling to find a paraprofessional, and I called her. I said, "Would you be interested in coming back to the school?" And she thought about it and said, "Yeah, heck yeah, I'll come back and help you guys out." So it's really nice that she came back and did a great job and helped us out. So we will miss her.
Oh,
Maybe sub a little bit.
maybe she'll do some subbing for us.
Maybe.
I did mention that to her in the hallway today, and she said,
I'll work on her.
You will.
I think she will.
How do you spell that last name?
Kitsaya. K-O-T-Z-E-A.
Let's say it.
Yep.
K-O-T-Z-E-A, okay.
All right, action item D, approve the contracts.
We'll need motions for each contract, please.
Okay, for Melanie Richardson, custodian, $15.55 an hour.
So moved.
Second.
Can I just do them consecutively? Or do we gotta vote on each one?
We better vote on it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 2, Jordan Bauer, junior high boys basketball coach at $1,707.
Second.
Thanks Marty and Larry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So that's basketball coach?
Junior high boys basketball.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for that second sheet that she posted on.
Thank you.
Number 3 is Alicia Garrett. Can I get a motion for part-time sped para at $15.05 an hour?
So moved.
Thanks Larry.
Second.
Thanks Marty. All in favor? Say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Action item E, amend policy. Copies enclosed for purchasing, one sentence was added.
So moved.
Second.
Thanks Larry, Marty. Discussion?
Pretty self-explanatory.
Yep, it just says federal funds will follow the same procedures. I'm in the middle of the review right now, and so they'll be asking for this.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Action item F, approve Northwestern Energy contract.
So moved.
Thanks Larry, thanks Marty. Discussion? Have anything?
What was the rate again?
The rate we contracted at, well, let me just have a discussion then. The rate
Well,
we-
I'm gonna have to lead it off for Lori because, you know, she doesn't like to talk about that stuff, but she actually called down there today and was told that most business managers don't call them and ask the questions that Lori asks, so thank you for that.
And the gentleman that returned my call is very intelligent, and I got a lesson today in natural gas and marketing that lasted 15 minutes. But I just asked him, because you guys always, you know, when we contract, we sign, what, the contract we're in right now started November 1st, we signed that back in March of 2021. And then we get to it, and you guys are always wondering, well, did we do it, you know, was that smart or was it not? Okay. So let me just tell you. We contracted at .428. That's what, is that right?
That's terms or how do you,
Nope, just wait, I take that back. I gotta get my glasses. .5005. And so what he was telling me today, and we're talking about, you know, like BTUs and by the million, and we just kind of went through, because I have it listed from back in 2005, what we contracted every year. And I would give him a rate, and he would go back and look at his graphs and tell me. And he said that we pay, what we pay is lower than what the residents pay. We do not ride the wave, you know, it keeps us out of the market. And he said, you know, if you go in and check on a daily basis, you know, there might be one day where it's higher or lower. But he was saying, like, in February of 21, they had an episode. He called it an episode. And he said, so if we would not have contracted, it would have taken us 2 years to make up the difference of what we were contracted at. And he said, so, you know, just, if you try to ride like that, it just takes one episode to just... And so he said, you know, in a situation like ours, it's smart to lock in.
You can budget for it too.
Yeah.
That's right. As Lori knows, I've never been a fan of locking it in. I like to ride the market. I was
well,
proven wrong this time.
And he did say, if, you know, you ever want him to come up and talk to you guys, he will. You'll have to allot some time, but he would do that.
where's he located?
Well, he's actually gonna be in Webster tomorrow at the development, there must be a development corporation meeting. His name is, Glanzer.
Tom Glenn.
Tom Glanzer, yes. So, if any of you are at that meeting, you can visit with him.
What, are we at 56?
No, we are at .5005. And when I had sent the email out, we were at, at that time, they had estimated it to be .54.
Oh, okay.
But,
So you
so we
actually got
actually
it.
locked in a little less.
Good. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Action item G, approve volunteer coaches. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Marty, Larry. Kevin Dunewald, Scott Engel, Aaron Keller, Jeff Prinz for track coaches.
They're all just a repeat.
Yep, yep, they've all been in the past, and they'll have to pass a background check or raid or anything else. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Action item H, amend the return to school policy.
You're gonna get paper on it.
Yeah.
So move.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Marty. Discussion, Dr. Block is handing it out.
Yeah, these are the sheets that I came up with. I will tell you, as for recommendation, I'm kind of like, I'm not sure what to recommend sometimes. I reviewed the CDC guidelines that have changed. I've spoken to many other school districts. We talked about this at our superintendent's meeting last Wednesday. And I reviewed our current policy and have highlighted, I guess this would be my recommendations. If we were to follow the CDC guidelines and go with the 5 days of isolation for somebody who tests positive, if after 5 full days of isolation, they are fever-free, for 24 hours without fever-reducing meds, and their symptoms have improved, taste and smell do not have to be, completely returned, otherwise you may never return to work. For some, it would be a long time before you return to work. And then they shall wear, I put in here shall wear a mask for an additional 5 days. I put the shall in there because it would fall in line with what we currently do with our close contacts, where we say, okay, if you're a close contact and you want to stay in school, you will wear a mask. If you choose not to wear a mask, then Mr. Case and I are going to say, go home. Because we're giving you the opportunity to stay in school, and if you want to take that opportunity, you got to at least wear a mask. It does cause some stress with our staff. I think it's a little easier in the elementary because, they have their same students all day long, whereas, you have 3 sections, 4 sections, depending on what you have for middle school kids. You have several kids go through your classroom in the secondary end, and there might be 3 in this class, and 5 in this class, and 7 in that class that are supposed to be wearing a mask. It's not that easy to enforce. It would be wonderful. It would be wonderful if people just did what they're supposed to according to our policy. But we're dealing with adolescents and teenagers, and they don't always follow that. So what I'm saying here is that we would be looking at isolate for 10 days. It used to say 14. That was the CDC guideline. And then quarantines for 10 days as well. That used to say 14. But the isolation may end, if you look at that larger paragraph with the yellow, may end after 5 full days of what I just had mentioned. And then the only other thing that I had changed was that on number 1, down below for our guidelines for a 10-day, for quarantine is a 10-day versus 14. I'm not sure where you guys are at with it, what you've had for discussion out in the public, or what you've seen on the news.
I can drift off a little, and there's nothing here about vaccination. Okay? I've got kind of a question. The vaccine mandate in South Dakota for schools or whatever, just to clarify things, that's a local issue for this school board, and we do not have to follow that, correct?
Are you talking about for staff? Or
Staff, yeah.
We can't do a vaccination mandate in South Dakota. It's not an option. And we, even as a school, are not allowed to ask whether you're vaccinated or not.
I'm just,
No.
for clarification, is what
Okay.
I'm...
We do typically learn if somebody's vaccinated through this process, because if we follow, and it says here we will follow the CDC guidelines shall be adhered to. When you go to the CDC guidelines, the ones that I printed out as of January 4th, so it was last Monday. It says here who does not need to quarantine, who should quarantine. It tells us, for those that do not need to quarantine, that is where you get into that information that we can't ask about in South Dakota. But we find out that if you're 18 and older and you've had all your vaccinations, your boosters, and any primary shots that you need, if you're age 5 to 17 and have a primary series of the COVID-19 vaccines, or if you have confirmed COVID-19 positive test result within the last 90 days, and you don't have to quarantine if you're in one of those categories.
But we can't ask.
So I use these guidelines when we say, okay, little Jimmy's gotta stay home for 10 days, and they say, whoa, my son, blah, 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 and he fits this
We
category.
can't ask, but
We can't ask, but they can tell us.
They can volunteer that.
Yes, they can
Yes.
volunteer that. And
Right.
typically, that's what they do.
And as far as documentation, when they volunteer it,
Technically, we do have the vaccination information for all students because it's part of their
yeah.
immunization records. So with the students, we can just go and look.
I'm just,
It's just that the governor had made a statement that we cannot and will not be asking people, employees and or students. And I don't know when she said that, but I know that that's
Yeah.
what the expectation is.
Yeah.
yeah, I know they're fighting over the, is it a mandate or not, or whatever it is. Doesn't help us.
No, but I do think that we've had good policies, Larry,
Oh,
throughout.
yeah, I
I think
don't
that
have a
this
problem
board
with it.
and this administration's done a great job rolling with the punches and taking each situation as they come, and I don't see any problems with this. I mean,
No, I'm not.
And it's good for what you're doing here, Larry, is to ask these questions,
Yeah.
because then it provides some of that clarification
clarify
that
it,
might be out there,
Yeah.
so. The CDC policy, I don't wanna put all of that in here. We can follow that by saying we follow the CDC guidelines for isolation, blah, 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 and then I refer to that, just so it's, I mean, this is already 20 or 36 pages long. It doesn't need to have all of this stuff,
Right.
because this one is, I think this is a good 4, 5, 8 pages too, so. So that's how, when people ask us, most of the time we're going on memory and what we have for our common practices. Just yesterday, we got emails regarding some folks that tested positive, and so I replied to Craig, to the parents, or to the staff member, the director of our co-op, and different things like that, so, I mean, it's a constant thing that we're doing, and we're trying to be as consistent as possible.
Yeah, it's been a pretty busy year,
It's-
starting back in the fall. Busy in terms of at least a couple a week, you know.
So-
Or doing the close contact tracing.
Yeah. I didn't bring it up last month, and I had meant to. I actually did a comparison of the first day of school to what did we have our meeting last month? December 12th? Was it 12th?
15th,
15th.
15th?
Wednesday.
I think I went from the first day of school until December. I don't think I went right to the 15th because I had prepared it a day or two ahead, but I would say that like the 12th of December. And in my opinion, in my experience, and in my thoughts, I think, oh, this year's way worse than last year. It's not. It's
Really?
not.
I think
It is for you. He's had way more elementary students. But the overall numbers, I was dumbfounded. I was like, this
that
is
blows
not-
my mind, because I would've guessed it was.
And I don't
Middle
have those,
school, mainly middle school.
I don't have those numbers in front of me, but if I were to guess, I would say we had like, and please don't print this, Caleb, because they're not accurate whatsoever. You know, if we had like 40, we didn't have 40 positive cases. We might have had maybe 17, 18 positive cases last year during that time, and then this year it was like 12. It was lower. And then our close contact list, that's where I thought we were really busting it this year, but we weren't. We were actually significantly lower. Now it's K-12, your numbers probably were higher,
Right.
Middle.
you know, in the elementary, but overall, and I think that's due to a lot of things. I think there's more testing, I think there's less testing for some, and I think there's quite a few people that have been vaccinated, students included.
Yep.
And so I think that's made some difference, but my personal opinion was that it was worse, and it wasn't when I did the statistics.
Okay, any other discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I should have to compare versions.
Superintendent report, Dr. Block.
Okay, real quick on ESSER two funds, we're still working on, trying to finalize some of those. I will say that the Suburban bids, I did get some quotes, and we're trying to look at purchasing a Suburban. It turns out that the 2022 Suburbans had to be ordered by October, so we've missed out on that. So our next go-around for a new Suburban is gonna be in May or June. I'll contact Haylers and go that route. We have to have 2 other additional bids or quotes in order to make that work. And it's our goal to do something locally, so I'll work on that. Professional development, this spring we will be working on school improvement and accreditation preparation, make sure that our school improvement plan is updated. We typically look at that every year briefly in April anyway. But the accreditation part, what I plan to do there is, I've talked with Mr. Case, we're gonna separate some folks and get maybe some volunteers and or assign some people to different committees to make sure we have a good portion of our staff working on the things that we need to for accreditation. I know one of the areas that is becoming more of a focus is making sure that our teachers are teaching to the state standards to the depth that they're supposed to be. And so we're going to be doing some review. I don't know if I'm going to have an actual trainer come in, but we're going to be reviewing samples of quality lesson plans that every teacher should have, regardless if they teach second grade, senior math or PE or whatever it might be. Each teacher is responsible to make sure that they're teaching to the state standards. Title IX training, I'm going to be going to Chamberlain. They would like us to all be in person, but I'm going to go to Chamberlain and do it in person. Mr. Case, and I've asked Mr. Mines to participate in the Title IX training. This recent years with the new Title IX requirements, the big issue that you run into is if there's any sort of a formal Title IX complaint, it isn't as easy as me as a superintendent or him as a principal looking at it and making a decision and moving on. There's an investigative process that the specific roles can be certain people and cannot be certain people. Our guidance counselors are not supposed to be a part of this process because they typically learn things about situations that could be Title IX complaints, if that makes sense. And so they really shouldn't be a part of the process. I am not supposed to serve as the director, as the superintendent, because I am kind of also the not backup, but I'm in the second level of review.
You sort of become judge and jury.
So, yeah, it's difficult. The smaller district that you're in, the more difficult it is. The larger districts are able to put a team of 5 or 6 people together to serve in these capacities, but the smaller the district that you are, the more challenging it's going to be. I don't know if I put it on here for NESC. I'm going to mention it just right now, but I know one thing with NESC is there was conversation at our superintendent's meeting last week to possibly see if the co-op, although it's a special services co-op, it's not just special ed, it's special services. Perhaps we could have a team at the NESC level that could perhaps serve multiple school districts.
That's a good idea.
I really would like to see something like that. And Mr. Case just filled out the evaluations and surveys for the special ed staff that service us through the co-op. And at the very end of that survey, was asked, what other things could the co-op be doing for us? And I made sure he had included that as a potential for us as a district. But I know other districts are looking at that. So more to come with the Title IX training. We will, anytime that we have a situation come up, whether we've got everybody fully trained at the time or not, we will probably contact legal counsel to help guide us through the process. And it might be Rodney Freeman, it may not be Rodney, it may be. I was told that is it Kaufman?
Jerry Kaufman?
Yeah, at the Associated School Boards is probably going to be the person that most school districts are going to turn towards for this guidance because I think he's focusing. The last thing I have in the superintendent's report part is, and I wish, well, Aaron's listening, but I did send an email to Tom a few weeks ago with the business, it was a sample business manager evaluation. And basically, it's identical to the form that you guys are used to seeing on an annual basis, but it's in a Google form, so you could just go on your computer and click, type in your comments, and then it would be sent, well, if I'm the owner of it, it would be sent to me, and I'm usually the one that gathers up the information, the business manager part, but we could have it where Tom gets the evaluation form for me, and then he could be the one that gathers it up before I see the summary. Is that something you guys are at all interested in, or you still want to do hard copies and get it to people, or? I thought it would streamline things.
I'd be a fan of the Google form.
No difference to me.
You'd be fine doing it if we did it, try it on a Google form? Okay, I've got the one for business manager done, and I'll do the one for the
It'd be
superintendent.
easier to do it last minute.
Or not last minute. If I can have it at home.
So I'll work on that and get those, the other Google form ready, and then I'll let Tom kind of coordinate that with you guys.
Good.
That's it for.
That's it for you. Principal report, Mr. Case.
Well, Dr. Block did such a good job, I don't have much to cover, but just wanted to let you know and the public know with the driver's ed, I did talk to the 7th and 8th graders today at lunch, and I did get the registration forms out. It is open just to in-district kids right now, so once we fill it up with in-district, then I usually open it up to out-of-district. In the years past, we've mainly had our kids because we fill up that quota, that number. So I intend to, I've had a couple of complaints over the years where the parents didn't know about it. Well, maybe Johnny or Susie wasn't in school that day, so I will get a notice out via text, email to all the parents tomorrow, just to let them know so they're aware of it, in case their son or daughter didn't bring that home and they were absent today. So we're, like I said, looking at a class around 30 to 40, I think, another large class.
Good.
I would say this as a parent of a new driver, the comments that my daughter has provided, I think we've got two excellent instructors for driver's ed between Mr. Case and Mr. Nygaard. There's just been some experiences with our daughter driving already that I've just brought some things, yep, Mr. Nygaard always tells that. So I've been impressed with what she knows.
What do you think of them,
Very
Jason?
more confident.
Yeah.
And just in speaking with the new law that they have out too, I think it's kind of good that they have that. You have to drive in the inclement weather and then some night hours. So I asked my daughter the other night when the blizzard was out, I said, okay, we're gonna go driving. So I just wanted her to experience that and feel the nerves instead of her being a passenger. So the in-town driving was pretty good, but I said, we're gonna go out onto 25 a little bit and head south, and yeah, it was an eye-opener for her. She had to drive slow, and the visibility was low, and, I didn't want to put her in harm's way, or, I've done this many times, but I wouldn't encourage it for other parents, but inclement weather to a certain degree, maybe you don't want to go out when it's a full-fledged blizzard, but, when there's kind of a little bit of inclement weather, but, yeah, it's been good, getting her that experience, nighttime driving and rainy or snowing.
And is it 6 months that they have to
Yes,
go?
it's 6 now. Yep.
That's too long.
180 days now?
Yeah.
180 days.
I don't know,
I mean, I get what you're saying,
wasn't,
Craig.
yeah, Joel, I wasn't really for it in the first place either, and, it's gonna take a little while to sink in, but I think just a little bit more experience, and I hope parents are following through with that too, where they need to drive with them, during rain, snow, and during the night a little bit too.
So that was sort of the intent of that rule,
Right.
of her law? I mean, because I hear that all the time. Why in the heck did, the state of South Dakota pass this law? And I've never really understood the intent of it, but it's to
Right.
give them more experience.
Yeah, because most of the driver's ed programs are in the summer. We're taking Chase and these other kids around. It's like, well, it's not this way in the winter. It's not this way in the winter.
Sure.
You have to, it's hard to teach that in the summer. But yet, as instructors, we're not doing that over the winter. It's up to the parents to follow through with that.
Larry, I learned something tonight.
Are there, and I'm just asking anybody that might know, are there statistics that show that we have a higher accident rate in South Dakota because we allow kids to drive at 14 versus Minnesota at 16, or?
I think there is, I don't, statistic wise, I'm not sure, but I've heard it's greater in South Dakota, just, I'm not sure if it's because of that fact, because we're younger, but it's, yeah.
We allow kids to drive at 14 in South Dakota.
It's just,
Yeah, we have kids that are in
No,
the,
I just moved here, no.
Caleb, we have
Age
kids
14.
that are in the class that are, by law, they can take the class at 13. But of course, they can't start driving until they're 14, but they can drive with us at 13 because it's the law.
We have a curfew.
Caleb's got a new story.
Chase, you took it at 13, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
insane. In Indiana, you can't drive till you're like 16, 17. It's just like,
Yeah.
Germany's 18.
yeah.
I mean,
So how many hours did they have? Can they do it like when I did it, we had like a log sheet. And I didn't do driver's ed because we didn't have that. So we just did like a log sheet. Did they do that here too?
now,
Well, with the new law, there is a log sheet, but to my understanding, you do not have to turn that in. They will just ask you if you've done the 10 hours at night, 10 hours of inclement weather, and the rest of the few hours driving. So yeah, it's 10 hours or 6 hours behind the wheel and 30 hours of classroom for driver's ed.
Really? I had to do 50 hours.
and our kids are upset because they used to be able to drive after 3 months of supervised driving, they could drive on their own. Now it's a half a year that they have to do supervised driving. And this is the first year of the changing from 90 days to 180, which my daughter's not happy about. I'm sure your son's not happy about too.
Well, my daughter, a lot of her friends turned before July 1st, and
So they missed that.
she's July 10th, and I'm, yeah, that's just the way it goes.
Yep.
Blame it on mom and dad.
All right, anything else, Mr. Case?
No, unless you had any questions.
No? NESC,
I do have a couple of items here, and this is just some of the discussion that we had. We had some refresher on qualifying students for special ed, and it seems like every year there's kind of a reminder to focus on making sure that we're not qualifying students that really shouldn't qualify for special ed. And it's mostly those that fall into the learning disability LD levels. But one thing that has come out of this whole COVID thing is that there's a significant loss of instruction, and they want to make sure, I don't know who they is, if it's they is the co-op or if they is the state or the federal government. They want to make sure that we aren't qualifying students basically just on that loss of instruction, because it still should come down to some sort of an identifiable learning disability, not simply because they're behind, because they didn't do work when they were at home, or loss of instruction. So it was an interesting conversation, I can say that. Service provider surveys and evaluations, I just mentioned that Mr. Case has received those, and it's something we do annually, is to help provide input and feedback on those that provide services for our district. And then they're doing Core's value review with a new CEO at the co-op. That's one of the things I think she had mentioned during her interview process, was to look at helping me improve the co-op. And so we're going through that process. It is my hope to serve on that committee as well. Not because I want to do more and go to more meetings, but I'd like to learn the process, because if it's something we could do here, I'd certainly like to look at implementing something as well. So that's it for what I got.
okay. Any questions on NESC? Buildings and grounds.
Talking about the actual project, the big project, we've been discussing floor plans and building specifications. I met with Travis Sickmiller and Patty Munson on, well, it doesn't matter, it was the last Thursday of the Christmas break. And we basically we're just about everywhere on this end of the building, looking to see where the old meets the new, going through the crawling tunnels, everything you could think of. I thought the meeting was gonna be maybe 2 hours. We started at 9, I got home at 4. And we didn't take a lunch break. It was a long day, very valuable day, but we've reviewed so many different things, and they have a lot of things to figure out, where pipes can go, where wires go, where foundations are not. Lots of little things that we just, it was a busy day, and tons of information. At the end of the day, I'm just gonna be honest, I was disappointed when I had made some comment. I said, well, so if we let bids in the end of January or in February, and both of them kind of looked at me, and Patty just says, Jimmy, it's not gonna happen in January. She said, I hope it happens in February, but it could be March. We've got a lot of stuff to take care of, and we wanna make sure we get these things right before we actually let these bids out. And when we were looking at even some of our older plans, she said, you know, things have just evolved so much, you have to have absolutely every detail in your plans in this day and age. She said, she pulled out the plans of the 1920s building, and she said, it's just crazy to me in this day and age that these are the plans that you gave to somebody, and they made the building look like that. And it didn't really give them a whole lot other than some dimensions. And now you've got to have everything put together. So this isn't anything new that you are aware of, but it's a long process. We've got some updated floor plans for the office areas and different things like that. There's been some discussion as to where I want to put, I say it's not going to be just me that makes that decision, but I'm going to have a lot to say about it because I've got to look at the whole program and figure out where is it best to place high school special ed, where is it best to place, who is best to place in a classroom that has no outdoor lighting or outdoor windows. I have to make those decisions, and if I leave it up to the staff, they're just fighting each other. And so a lot of little things still have to be decided. Those aren't as detrimental to make decisions right now. Patty said that once we kind of have an idea of this is going to go in this area, the floor plan can change, you know, even up to just before we do midnight. The timeline I had mentioned, what questions do you have right now? I haven't provided a whole lot of new information.
No, I just feel like you're in a whole new, space here
Yeah.
with her trying to go to bids, because now it's not just broad strokes, it's fine details.
Yeah.
And Tom expressed some concern to me about it too, and I just said, look, I mean, that's, in my opinion, that's where we're at, and it's just gonna take a little time, but we need to stay on.
It's gotta be right.
That's right.
Yeah.
We feel it's,
And I
Because
did.
if it doesn't get done right now, we're gonna pay for it on the back end. It's better off to be done right, designed right, the contractor's bidding on, accurate plans, or we're gonna be the ones paying in the end.
as many change orders as we can avoid. It's
Yes.
that much better for us.
I will say this, that I did send an email to Patty and to Travis and CC'd Tom Sanis as the board member, just so that he knew my correspondence was there to say, we're concerned about the timeline, and it was always our expectation, hopefully do something in January. How soon can we make this happen? And we want to continue to make it happen as soon as possible. One of the concerns that I had shared was that the farther out this gets, how much will we lose out in the competitiveness for, construction companies and things like that. Both of them responded separately to all of us, and right now there's not a lot of stuff going on in the Aberdeen area, and that's most likely where we're going to get our construction people. I think Travis said there's 4 construction firms that he works with on a regular basis, and he said they're going to be chomping at the bit for this project. And so that made me feel a little bit better. But nonetheless, I wanted them to know, okay, if it's not happening in January, let's get it as soon as we can and get it right as soon as we can. One thing that has changed, and it came out of our meeting on that Thursday, this is a big change, I think, but it might actually be one of the neatest things that could happen, is our boiler room. We're trying to figure out, there's an old foundation from the 1890s building, and some of that has to stay in place because if you start messing with it, the middle school was built on part of that, and so that's what Patty was really concerned about with her part of it. And Travis is mechanical, not the structural engineer, so, in our conversations, even with my custodians, they're like, well, where do we get storage? And we gotta make sure we have a place for receiving. I'm trying to keep track of all of this stuff. And one day, Susan Gaikowski stopped in my office, and she just goes, well, can we use the old high school? What are you gonna do? The old high school office? And I said, might be a classroom, might be locker rooms, I don't know what it's gonna be, we're not sure. That'd be great for us as a custodial storage, set that in the hall. So she had this idea, so I had written in there storage area, custodian, question mark. Well, Travis saw that while we were meeting, and his gears got going, and he kind of tilted his head, and by the end of the day, we were thinking that might be a great place for a boiler room, because it's only 2 doors down from all of the electrical that's already coming into the high school. We can do all of the piping down the corridors. Now, this isn't a done deal, this is just where all of this went from what we were talking about that particular day. It's at the end of the hall, so it's probably not the best place to have a classroom anyway, because there's no classroom across the hall from them either. And so that might be it. If we do that, I jokingly told Lori, probably about 3-4 weeks ago, I said, if we have to put the boiler room in your office, we'll find a closet for you. Well, now she's returned that favor to me, because it would be me that's displaced and Kelly, so I'm gonna be working on transition plans too. There will be some displacement, hopefully very little, but that might actually turn out well. And Travis had some of his people working on the floor plan that they had at Redfield, and similar square footage of where it needs to be heated with the size of the boilers. It fits well in there. There's power there, water's right outside in the street because they need a larger water supply, direct water supply. So just little things like that turn into a whole other option. So
Probably could be potentially a money saver if it's closer up there, or not?
I tell you what, for the
really?
transition, to be able to put that boiler in, I mean, literally, if we get out of school on May 15th or whatever day it is, and we can get out of there by the weekend, they could start working on the boiler right away. I want a new boiler in place for next year, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but that's my goal.
That'd be good.
And so, yeah. If you ever want to stop by and walk through things, and if you have questions, there's just so much to chat about. And the more people that are involved, sometimes that makes it a longer process. But it's better for you folks as decision makers to know some of this stuff sooner than later.
I don't think we're still thinking February is kind of we understand January is tight,
Yeah.
but I think we need to have something done. We do have an election coming up.
So I do have 2 other things I want to mention. Lori and I actually met with a gentleman today, and he's from, what's it called?
Protec and ARS.
It's Tecta America, and it includes Protec Roofing,
And
but also
ARS.
some other company out of Sioux Falls, ARS. And he really provided a neat, I thought it would be worthy of sharing this with you tonight even. Not saying that we need to jump on this, but ISG went through a full facility review, and they looked at all of our roofs, and we got some information. This is a sample of McCook Central school system, and basically it just gives them, they do a thorough review of the roofs, and that review includes the age of the roof, when it was installed, who installed it, the warranty, any repairs, and then they also go through and kind of put together a maintenance plan and an estimate. You can get, tell me if I'm wrong here, Laura, you can get a 1-year price, you can get a
2-year, 5-year.
2-year, you can get an idea of what it's going to cost you. Now they would obviously have the repairs done by Protec. I didn't get into the details to ask them, okay, if you put this together and we really wanted Grote Roofing to do it, can we have them do it? But it's really a nice, thorough plan. Enough that, when salespeople come, you kind of, I don't really have time for this. But by the time it got done, I was like, okay, I wanna, can I get a copy of this? Because I think it's worthy of us looking into something like this. If it's not this company, I'd like to have something. And this is mainly for the future. When I'm gone, when you folks are gone, people have some information as to how old pieces of the roof are and what's been done to them, and what we
Yeah,
need to do.
because when we do stuff now, because we have so many different roofs, and then we're digging, and this, I mean, I think it would just be a floor plan for the future. It's itemized by roof, what years, warranties, who to contact, what the issues are.
And
And
putting
then when
this
we
thing
know,
together,
like, and he said, if something's like really needed, or if it can be down the road, but then we're gonna kind of know budgeting wise too. Well,
Yeah.
okay, we have a little room, let's knock one of these off, or,
and he said, district our side with the facility, and he had our facilities on Google Maps, sorry, because when we walked down the hall, I said, well, we got this, and then he pulled it up. So I knew he was kind of looking at our district. I think he charges $85 per hour, and it would be about a 10-hour process to do a review. So a report like this would cost you about $850. I think that's a deal, considering what's in this, personally.
and he
Because
mentioned
it's gonna
that
give you
he's
guidance.
working with Millbank, and,
Yeah. So, something for us to think about. I told him, I said, we've got other bigger projects, but we'll be discussing this, I wanted to share with you tonight. Our ESSER 3 funds, we're still working on finalizing that. I forgot to mention. this.
no, we were approved.
Yes.
We are approved?
Yes, we just got notification, we're approved.
Now,
Trying to get the money is another situation, but we're approved.
I have to throw a ringer at you though, and I forgot to mention this to you, Lori. At our superintendent's meeting, it was discussed that, I haven't verified it, but architect fees and something else can be used. You can use the ESSER 3 funds for that. Now, that's not what our original application was for, but the reason I say we might want to consider that is if we amend our application and can do that, then we wouldn't have to worry about doing a separate bid for the HVAC system. If we go through with the way our application is right now, it would be recommended to us to have a separate bid for the HVAC and or possibly the boilers, so that we'd have a sizable enough project to be larger than the $640,000 that we have. The reason we need to do that separately is it's subject to the
Bacon Davis.
Right.
Davis-Bacon
Davis-Bacon.
Davis-Bacon requirements, and if you don't do it as a separate bid, and it's in the whole bid, the whole project is then required.
But Travis said it shouldn't be an issue, right?
Travis said we should be able to do it.
Yeah.
So, that little caveat came up at the superintendent's meeting, and I just went, no, that's not right, you can't do that, but everybody was, oh yeah, you can.
I just don't know, yeah, we would have to call and check with them on the time situation, because if we're already,
Yeah.
I would look into that a little further, because I mean, you don't think the whole project is subject to Davis-Bacon wages?
That's according to.
not if we bid it separately, and I got the email from Pierre.
But if you bid it separately, you're gonna have a whole separate, you're gonna be paying for bonding, and you're gonna be paying for a bunch of stuff twice. You know, from a contractor's perspective, because you're gonna have two separate contractors, right? And their schedules aren't gonna match, and then you're paying excise tax. I mean, I guess the excise tax might be offset, but there would be additional costs to our district.
If-
Yeah,
Two
Travis
separate-
did say that it will be more expensive.
But
I don't know.
if you're offsetting, if there is no Bacon Davis on the rest of the project, that's a considerable savings as well.
Right. And we're also, besides what he just came up with, we're limited on how to spend $600,000. We're restricted.
And then we're also gonna apply for the workforce grant. That's not due till March, you just looked that up, it's due
Yep.
in March. I have our grant from 2017, and I have a copy of the Rosso grant, so I'll be starting to draft that, and have it ready to go, and I'm gonna be contacting, local folks as well as like Marine Johnson, Webster Scale, Foothills, everybody that was contacted as, potential, partners, like we've been doing with our CTE stuff recently, and supporters within our community, so we'll get that going. There's no guarantee that we'll get that, but I think we definitely need to apply for it. It can be up to, I think, $225,000. My biggest challenge is I don't know if we have to make sure that it's not like a replacement program. We have to look at how is this a new situation? Because, you know, when we did it before, it was all new programs that we were bringing back from, you know, they had been gone for many, many years, so.
If you need any help on that, I'd be more happy to.
Okay.
So this is for the HVAC and the boiler?
The workforce grant is just it's
CTE
a
project.
grant through the Department of Education for career and technical education programs. And the largest that you get, I think, is 225, it might be 250,000. It's not competitive in the sense that, you know, we might get it and somebody beats us out. It's just there's a certain amount of money and they look at the programs or the applications and then they fund them as they prioritize them and fund them that way.
So the 600,000, that's for what now?
The 600,000 is already approved, that's our ESSER 3, and that's approved for HVAC and boiler.
Those are federal funds.
So the workforce grant would just be an extra for the CTE wing.
Okay. That's all you need to know.
Yep.
Is there, you think some of the money on here now with their legislature, they get a little more money than they know what to do with, and how they're gonna spend it? They're having the same problem. Do you think any of that's the workforce grant or anything else?
I haven't heard anything.
Are there anything, loopholes in there, something they might be doing grants for, or,
We'll be watching,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
100,000 here, 100,000 there, we'll take it.
The only thing that I've seen recently, and you probably got it, and I'm not gonna remember now that I start talking about it, there was an email, and it had something to do, it wasn't mental health. There's a significant amount of money in this one grant opportunity at the state level, and I just went, yeah, we're not gonna be, it's not anything that we're part of, or we have, it wasn't after school programs, it was, so there's money out there, and I think that's what they're doing, is they're trying to figure out how can we allocate this money to the districts and kind of take care of needs that are out there. So like Lori said, we'll be looking out for it. Whatever just came across my desk, and it isn't my sole decision, but it's not something that was,
Training opportunities.
I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't anything that I went, ooh, yeah, that's great. It's like, oh, I don't know how we figure that out, but we can certainly look at it. There will be, I think there'll be other opportunities. And I don't know if there's a way that the state can put more money into that workforce fund. It'd be nice if they could, because there's gonna be a lot. I think there's gonna be a sizable amount of applicants.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Can I throw one thing in there that just kind of came up tonight? Well, the Bearcat TV, not Bearcat TV, live ticket people were around doing their annual subscriptions. And so I was visiting with them about our internet service, and I didn't know if there was a way that they could help us, you know, get better broadband, or, you know, if we could get better cameras. And so anyways, I kind of walked through this with them, and I helped broadcast the holiday tournament, the wrestling tournament. And towards the end of the day, my phone blew up from people saying, hey, you know, you're not coming through, yada, yada, yada. Well, then we got to looking, and our broadband was down. It fell off during the day. So anyways, after discussions and talking to Chase tonight, what it is we have a hotspot, right? Isn't that what it's called?
At the Armory?
Yeah, there's a repeater under the H on the visitor side, right below the Bearcat TV booth.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why we had service when we were over there. Now that the Bearcat TV stand is on the other side of the gym, we don't have the broadband signal, the strength. So I think we should just try to hardwire internet in to that booth and just be done with it. And we can't move, I was thinking about this, Chase, we can't move
Because
that deal, the visitors need that. Or let's say we don't have our section of bleachers out, and, you know, for a concert, we're gonna need that on the other end. So we need to leave that there. And I don't know, I don't think it's a big deal, but can we have Jim just go get this thing wired in and be
I'll
done
have
with it?
Tammy contact, it'll be ITC that's put in our other.
And I'm not a tech guru, but to me, we're gonna be there for a lot of years, right? But can't we hardwire something in, so we plug into the wall and we've got the best service that we can get, rather than relying on Bluetooth, and, I mean, I don't know how all that works, but, is that something we can have Jim look
Makes
into?
it, yeah. I think so.
Okay. Not to throw more on your plate, but,
No, it's gonna be thrown on my plate.
okay, perfect.
Connectivity on the west side, is that what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I really think we should just hardwire something in and be done with it. All right. Anything else? Next meeting?
Supposed to be February 14th, that's the second Monday. But I do not know if there's something going on.
It was on February 14th last year too, wasn't it?
Yeah, do we have any
Oh, man, it's
activities?
Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Craig, you won't be able to be here.
Well, the rest of you shouldn't either.
Hey.
Activity wise, I don't know.
I have middle school basketball, it's home though, so. But I don't have the varsity sports.
I can't find that app
Mine says nothing for varsity that day.
now. Nothing. There you go.
There we go. Good thing Chase is here.
Rain check on your dates then, right? Prior to.
Temporarily.
As of today, it's good.
Okay, so we'll schedule it for the 14th, regular time. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thanks, Larry and Marty. All in favor? Thank you.